call this meeting to order. This will be a regular session of the Mayor and Council of the City of Bisbee, County of Cochise, State of Arizona. It's being held on Wednesday, July 5th at 7 p.m. at our council chambers. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Juanetta Hill.
Here.
Councilmember Joni Giacomino.
Here.
Councilmember Frank Davis.
Here.
Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Johns is excused. Councilmember Mel Sweet is excused. Mayor Pro Tem Anna Klein.
Here.
City staff, Stephen Hawkins, City Manager, Ashley Coronado, City Clerk, Terry Bagley, Finance Director, Joelle Landers, Personnel Director, Matthew Gurney, Public Works Director, Logan Dodd, Operations Manager, Tim Cox, Police Chief, Joe Estes, City Attorney.
Thank you, everyone. For tonight, we'll stand here in just a minute and take a moment for reflection on what you would like to reflect on for yourself and others, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. So, everyone, please stand. Thank you. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So for tonight, I have a quick little announcement. Actually, it's a pre-announcement. I have the real privilege to actually say we have 2 employees that are going to be given awards coming up next week. And the first one will be for one of our ex-council members that I sat here for a long time with, and Anna did, Debbie Scott. Yeah. You'll be awarded the Spirit of Service Award. This will be presented the evening of July 11th in Tucson at the Arizona Governor's Conference on Tourism. Benny is a former council member and a miner himself and shows the spirit of Bisbee. He's teaching our mining and other history at our Queen Mine Tour. He somehow got on TikTok and it blew up, and he became quite a famous guy. And it's just, it's great. He's really one of the people that I think deserve this. And the other one will be actually going to our city manager, Mr. Papa. He'll receive the Gabe Zimmerman Public Service Community Builder Award. The award will be on Thursday, July 13th at the Arizona City and County Management Association Conference in Tucson, Arizona. This is the conference of city managers and county administrators across the entire state. And it's quite an honor because there's only 4 awards that are given out each year, one for a small city as a community builder. This is the one he won. And I have to say it, when they say small city, this is 100,000 people or less. So it's not like, we're not competing with people in the 100,000 range, but really, these are special awards that are awarded each year to non-elected public servants that recognize the contributions to our Arizona communities. So, just a little background, on January 8th, 2011, Gabe Zimmerman, he was the Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords Community Outreach Director. He lost his life while serving the citizens of Arizona at that Congress on Your Corner. So this was something that his family created in order to honor non-elected people, the people that actually work for us. So it's I'll be attending that along with our city clerk and my spouse. So I'll have more on it once the award is given, and I know a little more than what I'm saying. But I guess the bottom line is it's just 2 examples of the quality of people that work for us. And I know if there were 10 other awards out there, our Bisbee City staff would probably win almost all of them. So I'll have more to say later, but honestly, it's a real honor to be a mayor of employees like this. So that's my 2 cents for tonight, and we'll get onto the meeting, but thank you for listening to me. So on to general business, this will be, first thing is call the public. So we will hear from, let's see, anybody,
It's Fred Miller.
just Fred Miller at the call, so just looking to see who signed up for what. Thanks, Fred.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to support item number 6, the 5-year agreement between the city and WIC Communications for the running of the Bisbee 1000 stairs. I've known the CEO of WIC Communications for several years. He's a real stand-up guy. They have a really good business, I think. They're very community-minded, and I think they would be a real good asset for running the race in our city. I'd like to publicly thank Cynthia Conroy for building the Bisbee 1000. Over the years, I was on the board for 4 years, and I was a director for 1 year, way back. And it's a much different race now, obviously, but that race continues to give Bisbee prominence throughout the United States. Throughout the year. So I think this is really a good thing for our city. I looked over the agreement. I think it's pretty sound. It's a large event. It does have some necessity for moving things around before the event, but that's just to be expected and stuff. They've done a wonderful job with parking, and I think that will be continued with the WIC Communications. So I really support it, and I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I have one. Steve, did you sign up for an individual item, or did you, Steve, can't make the last thing out?
All.
Yeah, did you call the public or an item?
Yep, call the public.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Thanks, Steve.
Well, first of all, thank you, Steve Ball. Want to follow Fred's comment in support of item number 6. I think it's terrific that there's a succession plan for the Bisbee 1000. That's a real marquee event. Many of our friends and neighbors have originally been brought to Bisbee to this event. So I think it's a great way to really highlight how wonderful the community is. The idea that this is going to continue and have some succession, I think is wonderful. The economic impact that it makes is certainly significant as well. And I think that's all good for our employees, and we hope that you support it as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right, the rest of them are signed up for item 3, which we will get to shortly. All right, with that, we'll move on to accounts payable. I have a motion, please.
I move that we pay accounts payable in the amount of $202,968.74.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to pay accounts payable as shown. Do we have any questions on anything out there? Going once, going twice? Seeing none, we have a motion and we have a second to pay accounts payable in the amount of $202,968.74. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it, so moved. All right, we'll move on to, there's nothing in old business? Oh, wait, excuse me. We gotta do the consent agenda, of course. So under the consent agenda, we have one approval for the minutes from June 20th, 2023. And we have one approval for an extension of premise patio permit by the American Legion Post 16 for one of their events that's being held on August 26th. Does anyone have anything to cool? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A and B.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items A and B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it, so moved. All right, we have no old business, but we'll move on now to new business. And so here we have item 3. This is discussion of possible direction on the petitions received from Jane Borger and related to the West Boulevard. We have those in front of us, and we have a lot of people that come up to speak to those, so we'll let you speak and then we'll open it up for discussion. So the first one I have on the list here is Mr. Anderson. Now.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Council. So, West Boulevard. West Boulevard is a very unique and special place, and not just because I live there, but it is 2,300 feet long. That's almost half a mile. That's 9 city blocks long, okay, 9 city blocks. It's almost straight as an arrow, except for one little dog leg that you don't even have to slow down for. And think of this, there's an elevational gain of 175 feet. Okay, so it's steep the whole way. So I know we don't have any money for traffic calming, speed bumps or humps or whatever you want to talk to, but we got to do something there about the speeders. West Boulevard is also unique and special because going up it, it just kind of makes your throttle foot tremble. You just want to conquer this hill. So everybody gets on it. They just tend to speed going up. Going downhill, same thing. You got to ride your brakes, otherwise you're going to be going too fast. So, and then everybody on West Boulevard, I think, has a story about their car getting ran into or bumped into, car kissers. There's been so many wrecks on West Boulevard, people being inebriated. Going up West Boulevard, you've got the road going up, whatever it's called, going up to Juniper Flats. But the second turnout there is a great spot for the orange Dodge and the white Mustang to haul buns up West Boulevard. Go up there, park at that place. You can look way down the mountain and way up the mountain, see if cars are coming. And there's always these other nice cars following them up, ones or twos, and they all butt up there. I think they're doing some kind of little transactions. And they're up there just as long to, see the goods, do the transactions. Because that's a spot where if you're in Bisbee and you're doing some kind of business and you don't want anybody to see your business, you can get up there, you're out of town, you're out of sight, and that's what's going on. So that's really all I had to say. Do whatever you can to help us slow down the traffic on West Boulevard. I know the police department put out the radar sign about a week, 2 weeks ago. I think it helped. I personally paid, and my wife paid for speed underneath the city speeding, 25-mile-an-hour signs, radar enforced. There's probably only radar enforced signs in this whole town, but that's because our neighborhood is really hurting right now because of the speeders. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jane.
Thank you.
Sure.
My name is Jane Borger. I live at 1623 West Boulevard and have been there with my husband. Is this on?
Yes.
Oh, it makes me want to sing.
Well, go ahead.
Go for it.
No. Anyway, we've lived there or owned the property for 23 years. This is not a new problem. This problem has gone on, and we've actually met with our representatives about the speeders informally, I guess you'd call it, because there was no petition attached. When the road was just about to be reopened, and we were worried about the speeding taking place again, and as time has gone on, and by the way, nothing really was done at the time. As time goes on, it gets worse and worse and worse. We recently had a very serious car accident, a one-car accident. The woman was going uphill, she was speeding. Neighbors have said as fast as 70 miles an hour. I don't know, I didn't see it. But she hit a wall so hard that she spun 3 times and damaged all 3 sides of her car. This is just an example of what we expect to happen several times a day, because we have speeders all day long and all night long. I only have 3 minutes, don't I? Okay.
Keep going.
When we called the police, 911, we called this new dispatch center. I think, Ken, you told Sue about it. I gave my address, and you know what I was told by the dispatcher? That I lived at 1623 Tombstone Canyon. And she wanted to argue about that, and we've got somebody in a car that, as far as I know, she might be dead or dying. And so I finally hung up on her. It took 25 minutes for the police to arrive because of address confusion. When they came, they parked down by Pueblo Court Apartments, and they were getting dressed as they walked uphill. They didn't come up to the accident, they parked way down the hill. They took their time getting up there, and then they didn't bother to do anything about traffic coming toward the accident. We had residents stopping traffic. I could go on and on. There's been all kinds of confusion with addresses, speeders. I want speed humps, and most of us do. And I don't know how expensive they are, but we need something to slow them down. Radar enforced signs don't work. Police making spot visits don't work. And something's gotta be done. Somebody's gonna get killed. It's a public safety issue. And I could go on and on, but I'll stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Peter Levine? You're up.
Hi, I'm Peter Levine. My wife and I have been on West Boulevard since 1985. And what I wanted to address was just a little variation, kind of what Jane was talking about. That one-car accident, it took a long time for the police to get there. I know there was a debate, West Boulevard, Tombstone Canyon. And as I thought about it, I thought, the dispatcher really plays a critical role in an emergency call. And I thought, why was there confusion over West Boulevard versus Tombstone Canyon? I know when you come through the tunnel coming into Bisbee, ADOT has signs, exit off Highway 80, West Boulevard. There's, my wife and I have gotten package deliveries for years from FedEx and UPS, West Boulevard. I typed West Boulevard Bisbee into Google the other day and came up with all these real estate websites showing all these addresses on West Boulevard, my house, my neighbor's house, West Boulevard. It's not something that we kind of made up on our own. My driver's license puts me on West Boulevard. It's my official address here. I have utility bills here. My three latest from Southwest Gas, Sparklight, and Arizona Water, and the service address in all of them is West Boulevard. Even the cities, here's my latest city sewer and garbage bill. Oh, West Boulevard. So I wonder why I'm going on belaboring this and beating this to death. I'm just trying to say that West Boulevard is, it's real. People know it's there. And I've seen suggested, we could resolve this problem by just calling everything Tombstone Canyon, but I don't see that as a solution. The dispatcher just needs to know and be clear on where's West Boulevard, whether it's a matter of training, an updated map, database update, I don't know what. One last thing I'll just present. This is Observer from last week, June 29th, 2023. Article on the last page about restrictions for the Coaster Race, parking restrictions. And I called the Observer and said, where'd you get the information? He said, it was a press release from the police department, and it talks about where the parking's restricted, and two different references on here talk about Tombstone Canyon at West Boulevard. So the police know, ADOT knows and acknowledges it, utilities know, the city's own sewer and garbage bill says finance department up here, they all know it. So I just think whatever needs to be done so that the dispatcher has enough information to fulfill their role should be done. Not changing names, not telling us your Tombstone Canyon.
Can I address you real quickly?
I didn't know you were allowed to speak, please do.
No, you're on call, and but I can speak to you say I'll speak to what I've done on this address issue, but I thank you. If there's anything else you want to say, that's fine. What's that?
His 3 minutes was up.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, but I'll address that. Trust me. I'm working. Okay. Anyway, thank you. When I get this up for full discussion, it is an item, and so I'll tell you what I did. We are switching over to CCOM. CCOM is in Sierra Vista. It's all computerized. When they type in an address, it comes from the county overlay map. Okay. If you go to the county parcel map, There is no West Boulevard, it shows Tombstone Canyon. That's why they're having a problem. I went to Sheriff Daniels. Sheriff Daniels, we have a big problem here, okay? What's that, sir? I said, we have a street name that our dispatching can't. Well, that's easy, just get us to know, we can put in and change all that. It's just because it came in as an overlay. So I've assigned City Manager Plotkin to get in with the powers to be, because he will be sitting on the board of CCOM now, and we'll get all this cleared up. It will be West Boulevard. We will put it back in as West Boulevard. End of story. And it's easier fix than I thought it was going to be, but Sheriff Daniels, I'm putting his word to the fire, and he said, listen, they can change it with a bunch of changes and stuff. It's only because it came in as a county overlay map, okay? So honestly, that will be taken care of. I can't say it will be tomorrow, it will take some time, but we'll get it in there so that these dispatchers, when you type in West Boulevard, it will pop up as West Boulevard. They will know, well done. I mean, I actually had somebody called our dispatch the other day and said, just send us some police to Elmo's. Now, can you imagine the people over in Sierra Leone? Elmo's? And they had no idea. Now, our local people was like, oh yeah, okay, immediately, So, yeah, we're in a little bit of a change and learning procedure. We'll get this worked out, but it's in the end, it's going to be very professional and very done, but we'll just have to work through these glitches as we work along, so. Yeah.
Is it appropriate to ask a question?
Well, sure, I mean.
Can you please make sure that Mr. Ward, or whatever you
Well,
want
he
to
goes
talk
by the
about-
county maps.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I need an address. I have two lots. One is on Tombstone Canyon, one is on West Boulevard. According to the county, my tax assessment, and when I called Mr. Ward and said that's not possible, my house sits on both. And they both face.
Yeah, I can't address an individual problem, but you.
But I'm just asking, will the city please prepare and fix their map and let Mr. Ward know that?
Well, it's the county that does all this, and so we're gonna fix it with the dispatch
Okay.
system so that we don't have this delay stuff that we're talking about.
And
So
also-
just let you know, that's,
The voter registration, people need to be told also, because some
well,
of us got registered.
that all has to happen through the county, but we will address it with
Okay.
them, and hopefully.
Well, no more accidents, anybody.
No, we'll get our part done, and if it continues on the voter registration and all that, you'll have to talk to the county, but we'll back you on that as far as the county goes. I have one more, Joan Reichel?
Good evening, thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I just want to say, having seen the accident, it was quite amazing to see this car that had spun out and was damaged, and the woman who was in the car was fortunately not seriously hurt. And so to be there and wait for the fire department or the ambulance and the police to show up seemed very unusual. And that was kind of disconcerting to really be there. And then the other thing, as far as commenting on street names, I think in Bisbee there's West Vista, East Vista, there's maybe a Clausen Street in one section of Bisbee and another Clausen in another area. So there are confusing streets in Bisbee, there can be, and maybe if you use your GPS and you try to get up Quarry Canyon to get out of town or something, you might have a problem. So anyway, my point is that there are streets that the city map and the dispatcher needs to make sure they have correct information.
As those, if and those arise, we will correct them and fix the whole computer base that brings those up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now we are full members of it, we will be able to have a board member sitting there and going to the meetings and making it happen, so, trust me. Okay, if you can. All right. So, we have the two petitions, one of them addressing the address situation, and hopefully I've answered that, and I'm hoping that if you give us a little time, we'll get the West Boulevard thing fixed, and any other things that arise, let us know, because we can take it immediately to CCOM and get that fixed. As far as the speed bumps, I'll open that up for discussion among our council members and see if you, I'll be first, I'll be honest. I lived next to some speed bumps at one time. I hated it.
They're humps, not bumps.
Well, they were humped too, but they, hump or bump, still what happens is, when I sleep with my windows open, it was, bum, 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 and if you're right next to that speed bump, there is issues of, you know, what you'll hear, instead of the car just going on by. Now, I agree, it slows it down, but so, just so you know, that if we put them in, the people that are right next to them may start having a lot more noise, car noise than what they're used to. I'm just putting that out there as a downside of them. The other downside that I've seen in this town several different times is when you put a speed bump in, it affects the water flow. So as the water comes sheeting down off that street and hits that speed bump, what happens is whoever's next to that speed bump, it pushes it out to the side and it starts washing out the side of the road, because you don't have gutters on that street, you don't have any storm drains to collect that. So that is an additional problem that you may experience if we put them in. I just want to be really upfront what I know of what that is. So if that's still the majority of the people, but understand if your neighbors say, well, I don't want them in front of me because this is going to happen, just know this is some of the issues we deal with when we look at the whole situation. So that's my feeling. I'm willing to put them in if the community, all the people there are willing to go and put up with maybe some of the issues that they cause. Outside of that, I don't have anything else to say.
Hey, Mayor, I know I'm showing up a little bit late. Can
No,
I say one?
no, you're not signed up. Sorry, we're done with the call.
All right.
So, yeah, go ahead, Ann.
So, I mean, most everybody on staff kind of knows how I feel about this. My big concerns with speed humps, speed bumps, whatever you want to call them, is with emergency personnel getting to you or to your neighbors. It
But
slows
that's
down.
not a problem, they can't find.
Well, you know, it'll slow them down even more. Instead of 25 minutes, it might be 35. I mean, is that something that you really want? To me, again, it slows down emergency personnel getting to you or your neighbors. The other thing is the wear and tear on the apparatus, trying to get over them. And we all know that we have issues with, you know, all of our apparatus breaking down. But that, it doesn't help when they're constantly, you know, and of course, you know, most of the calls are medical calls. So, I don't know, I would want an ambulance getting to me or my family or my friends, neighbors quicker. And again, to have nice running ambulances that are not ruined by the obstacles in the way. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Perhaps the solution is temporary speed bumps. And I spoke with Logan earlier this week, and he said the city's acquired some. So we can put those in place and see how it works up there. They're not permanent. If they cause problems, they can be moved. See how that works out. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, good idea.
Is there
Right.
a specific distance that's required? Because your could be alleviated by putting them closer together.
I actually went up and measured the ones. We do have some on Clausen as it comes down by High Desert. And it's 150 feet between them. So I don't know if there is I don't think there's a standard, but you don't want too many, you don't want them too far apart, so it's kind of
One study that was submitted to you with the petition recommended every
I'm
250 feet.
sorry,
Okay, but it did recommend 250 feet.
I know, and then your map shows 150 feet, but I'm just telling you what I saw.
All right.
So, we'll let our Public Works Department determine. Anything else? Then I'm going to turn over to the city manager. Unless you have anything, Ms. Hill?
Is there a particular time of the year or when you're having events that this occurs more often, or,
Hold the mic a little closer to you. Yeah.
okay, is there a particular time that there's more traffic speeding up and down West
No, ma'am.
Boulevard, or is it an ongoing situation?
You're right.
It's pretty much.
Sounds like it's all the time. Okay.
And then, may I speak to the
Yes.
speed humps, speed bumps?
Uh,
They're traffic calming, And we don't want big humps, we don't want drastic inclines. These are spread out to where a car going just below the speed limit doesn't even have to go much below the speed limit to go over these.
Okay. Those are, there's a hump and there's a bump, but yeah. The ones that are temporary will be bumps. I don't think those are not,
That's not what we want.
well, then you have to decide if you want the
Well, we're gonna
temporary.
try.
So that's what I'm here, I will.
Take it or leave it? Is that-
No, I'm saying if you don't want these, then we'll have to work on the hump side, which would take a while before we get asphalt and all the other stuff. And I appreciate the chief interjecting and also the city manager.
But anything that slows traffic down, we want right now. But
Well, then
we
that's
also- We also want it done correctly.
All right,
Thank you.
so, thanks. Okay,
Yeah, interesting, all the comments, both from the public and from the council. This is, over 39 years, probably something I've heard about every 2 or 3 years in my entire career. And every single time, the solutions were different. Which is to say, one size doesn't fit all. One situation doesn't solve all problems. And I think that this is a situation where Public Works would be willing to experiment a little bit, to find, and I didn't realize when Mr. Anderson said what the elevation rise was over that distance. I mean, I know it's uphill, but I didn't realize it was that much uphill. You can build a lot of speed. I've also seen almost every single method known to someone with a vehicle to counteract or utilize or abuse speed bumps or humps. Personally, I think some of the best I've seen probably are right down in Naco in front of a golf course, because they're gradual and they're long. They're also very expensive. Of course, that's out in the county, and the county put those in. I think we've got a multitude of issues that we have to deal with here. The first issue is obviously speed. The second issue is obviously drainage. And we've got to find a way to make it work if we can. I think we have an obligation to do that. We only own a portion, the county owns the rest. We can deal with our portion. We can talk with the sheriff and see, or the supervisors, and see if they're willing to partner with us further up the road when it's outside city limits. I'm not prepared tonight to say what the right solution is. I think we need to look at several. I think Frank Davis's suggestion is worth a trial, because we have the temporary devices. See what that impact is. And all of this would be with no commitment to be permanent, okay? I've also seen some devices that are actually made entirely of asphalt, but yet pay some attention to the drainage that we're gonna deal with in the area, particularly in the monsoon. And also public safety vehicles. Unfortunately, I don't have a standard width for a public safety vehicle, because they come in all shapes and sizes, just like the rest of us. But I think we can, and what I would like to do is, initially, I'd like to get a temporary speed bump out there, because I think the speed is a factor, we need to control it now. I think having a speed trailer out there, I think everybody will agree that the speed trailer did help. It's over on Highway 80 now, and it's 92. Right now, slows me down every morning.
remind you, anyway.
Yeah. So, I would like to try a couple of different designs using asphalt over time. We're in the process right now of getting to the stage of the year where we're paving. So the asphalt plants will be running, we'll have that material available to us probably close to October, November, when it starts to get cold again. It just depends on when the batch plants are running. And right now, that's in Sierra Vista. So If you would have the patience to work with us on a solution, we'd like to try a couple of different things over the next 6-ish months, and see where that leads us and see what helps. We've also, I mean, we should be seeing monsoon rains hopefully this week. That will help us deal with the drainage issues as well as we encounter them. So, staff's recommendation to council would be to just give us 6 months to experiment with several different methods. Along the city's part, we will also contact the county. We'll see if they will partner with us in the unincorporated area.
It's only half the street, unfortunately. Sure.
So when they're designing, is there a possible way of implementing drainage culverts, small ones like you would in a side of the road into the speed bumps themselves? So as the water's running down the road, it hit those pipes that are built into your speed bumps, and then that wouldn't impede the flow of water.
Now you're hiring an engineer, and I would rather not do that in the next 6 months.
I've never seen pipes in a speed bump. It could be happening.
There could be a break in the middle of them.
That's, okay, what? Anything else? Well, if we can address that, I mean, we appreciate you bringing this. Petition is what brings it before us, and we appreciate you bringing this, and I believe the council will agree with me that we will turn this to staff, and if you're not satisfied over some of the things that they're gonna be trying, you'll be back before us, and we'll put something else before. But this is an ongoing procedure. We've had success in some areas with speed bumps, and other ones, humps, I don't care. But, and other ones that they immediately got taken out because people hate them. So let's work on a method to slow people down and help you out. We'll get the address stuff fixed for you, and that hopefully will address them both. So,
Just one more thing, if we could have just an ad hoc group from the residents, 2 or 3 people, we could appoint.
I volunteer.
Yeah. Okay, Al, you're outvoted.
I also over there.
Okay, I've got 3.
Jane Borger,
Mhm.
Ronette Walto.
Thank you. Okay, we'll be, do me a favor, and if you could give Logan a phone number and an email address, we can arrange it together.
Who is Logan?
Logan's this young man right here. And what we'll do is we'll probably try to meet you where it is, instead of making you all come down to City Hall, okay? So we'll try and get something going next week. All right?
I'm gonna put this on the back burner, it's moving forward, so hope everybody's okay, and my number's always out there, so I'm sure I'll hit it. And on this guy lives in work. No, I'm just.
Oh, yeah, Frank, you're certainly welcome to be in that hot member.
Okay. All right, with that, I'm hoping that item 3 is handled for tonight, and we'll move on to item 4. So item 4 is a public hearing and discussion and possible approval of the notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-23-12. This is a rezoning of 5 parcels. They're underdressed, owned by Mr. Todd Conklin, and they would like those to be changed zoning from RM to C4. This requires a public hearing, and so I'm going to open the public hearing at this point, and this will be a public hearing for the zoning change. So, staff report, first off, that I get, just let everybody kind of walk out for a second. Now, I'll call you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, thank you very much.
No problem.
Do we have
Joe's here.
Joe here? Ah, there's Joe.
I think that should be a requirement of the petition.
I can put it at the end. All right, we're gonna move on now to this item 4. I'm gonna hear from staff first. Go ahead, Mr. Ward.
This land was divided up I have no idea really how long, it'd be at least 40 years.
George, you're gonna have to send me out.
Oh, at least 40 years ago, and it's been lying there without being used. And I think that maybe by changing the zoning, that's going to help it be used. In changing it to C4, then Todd would have to provide fencing between him and residences, an opaque 6-foot fence. And the rezoning is consistent with the general plan, in a general plan way, and with the San Jose Charrette. And it seems like it's a good idea.
So I do have one question of staff, and when I look at the map, it looks like this was originally plotted out for like homes of some type of, I don't know, motor homes or whatever, I don't know. But there's a lot of area in between that is city land, right?
Or right of ways.
Yeah, so how does that work? Because each one of these is being changed, but then there's all the city land in between. He doesn't own the city land, so he can't fence that off. So he has to fence each one of these individually? I guess that's where I'm getting confused.
I think the parcels that are up against, that are adjacent to residences, at this point would have to be fenced.
And so all that land that is the city, the big right of way is still just city land and
Yeah, but
can't be
the right of way
used.
is not residences.
And it can't be used. It's not.
No, Todd cannot use those ones up.
All right, that seems a little problematic to me because if you want all this whole area to be C4, then all these areas that are the no man's land, which is the city land, it becomes really problematic as for, how are we gonna monitor the use of, to make sure there isn't a bunch of junk on our city property and so on.
And there was, in one of the pieces of paper I was looking over, they're talking about that he's gonna limit people that coming in through his easement off of Highway 92. But those city right of ways are streets, and you can't keep people off of those.
Yeah, I know, so so you can't fence the whole thing out because you've got all this city land running in between.
Not unless the city agrees to selling that property.
Well, that's a different issue.
That's a whole different issue, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do the public hearing and then we'll talk about it. So thank you for the staff report. Public hearing is open, and first I will ask for any discussion from the members of the public that support this item. So anybody that supports this item, please come to the podium.
Mayor, council, how you guys doing? Good to see everybody. So, yeah, I'd like to get it changed to C4 industrial because it suits it better. On the north side, everything butts up against Freeport land as it is. Nothing will ever be built back there, and I never plan on building back there. But what's happening now is I need to be able to use it properly to lay materials down if I need to. Previously it was a rodeo. If anybody's from Bisbee, they know about Bisbee. That was a rodeo back there. And obviously the zoning wasn't right for it back then. But I think the intentions in the past were to put mobile homes there, a developer was going to, and they had done some infrastructure back there. That still exists, but it never happened. And you can see my property whenever you're driving by. You can see what I'm doing out there, and really it's just material laid down. So I'm kindly asking that you guys grant my application.
So just a quick question, this is actually coming up to be about almost 8 acres.
Yes, sir. 8.1.
So that's what I looked at mine. I mean, the whole area of the whole Safeway Plaza is 4 acres. This is double. Do you really need that much in a commercial district
Yes, I
for
do.
what you're doing?
Yeah, because I don't plan on using it for anything else. I don't want to build homes back there. I'm
Well,
trying.
homes wouldn't be building, but.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put mobile homes back in there.
I realize, but what I'm trying to get to is, once we change it to this, then you can turn around and sell it as commercial property, and we would have no chance to say, well, you
It would
can't.
increase your taxes
in the future.
Well,
I mean,
but the only roads in and out are through the neighbors. So that's the part that's bothering me, is understanding why you need 9 acres or 8 acres to do whatever it is your business has to do. So I'm just being honest with you, what my
Did you
concern
know
is.
that it was a rodeo? Did you actually know that it was a rodeo back in the day?
Yeah, I can see the circle around there.
But that's what it was. I mean, it was used for other purposes.
But that's past. We're looking now, what's
Okay.
gonna happen now and in the future. And if I change this, and then you turn around and list it for sale tomorrow, half of it, then.
I'm from Bisbee. I'm not selling anything that I've got. I don't plan on doing that. I didn't come here to make profit off of the city by getting my land rezoned for a certain purpose. I came here so it'd benefit my business
I'm
and
just trying
my
to
property.
understand why you need 8 acres to do whatever you're doing. Tell me what you're gonna do on 8 acres.
So it's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential back there. And, I mean, you've seen what I've done in my business with 6 years.
You're not answering
But
my
I'm saying
question.
that I will grow, but I would like to repurpose the land, you know, as it already is. The front part on the south side is already zoned C4. Mr. Budge, it's already zoned C4.
I have the map right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I know that. And I'm not against some of the stuff that abuts up to your building, but from 8 acres, I'm just looking for the person that's trying to get this changed to tell me what you possibly you can use 8 acres for an electrical business.
Put I-beams down, concrete, there's a lot of potential. Put a semi-trailer back there if I had to. Right now, I would be,
You couldn't do that on 4 acres?
but I would have problems with Mr. Ward and the city if I try to do anything back there. So what I'm trying to do is get in good standing with the city. Cause I'm trying to do the right thing here, Mr. Budge.
I know.
I am, I'm trying to do the right thing.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the public in support of this? Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak against this? Seeing none, is there any written communications? There's none. So I will close this public hearing and open it up for discussion among council members. Ward 3, you've got 2 Ward 3 people here, so go ahead.
Todd, can you answer this, or maybe
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ward? When we originally went in for the rezoning the first time, how come this didn't come up with that then?
So what happened was I acquired the 2 acres previously. And then I built my shop and then I constructed my yard. But what happened was, I'm gonna throw this out there. You know, ever heard of the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book? Anybody ever heard that guy? This guy, he owned that property back there and he put it up for sale like a year after I built my shop. So I bought the first section first and then the other section came up. So I had to come up with the money and I got it, but otherwise I would have done it as a total inclusive application. So that's the reason why I'm coming back for a second application for the second part of it, because the first part was already zoned C4, and now I'm stuck with the mobile home zoning that just doesn't work for my business. I mean, I'm running a business out of there. You know, that doesn't, it doesn't work with the zoning that's there.
Well, I remember when you came before us the first time, and it was kind of hard to get through on some of it, you know, because there were a lot of people in that area that didn't even want the first portion.
Yes, ma'am.
As commercial. To me, that area is commercial.
Thank you.
But I was real curious as to why it didn't all come at once.
Yeah.
Because it does lead to many questions, you know.
And I've actually, when I bought it, I went and I talked to every single neighbor out there, and I talked to them, and they're actually, people are excited that somebody's taking ownership of it. There's been a lot of illegal dumping out there that I have to go clean up still with my money. You know what I mean? I gotta pay the dump fees, use my equipment, my manpower. And I've agreed to go over there and get rid of the debris from some of these people's houses. And so, no good deed goes unpunished, but, you know, I'm gonna help the community out. I'm gonna help the people that are around my property. And that's what I plan to do, regardless of how this meeting goes tonight.
So, the area he's referring to back there used to be the old Woods' Corrals and the rodeo grounds, is what that area is, obviously, you can see that. Looking at this map here. Seedlings is next to it. Nothing has been done with that property for years. It's been just sitting out there fallow. It collects garbage, just like it does behind the San Jose Square. I mean, people are illegally dumping. If he's gonna be able to utilize it for something, at least maybe he'll keep that area cleaned up. I don't see the issue, like Anna, I had always assumed that was a zone for commercial anyway, because of the old motor home, or not motor home, motor vehicle, Cox's place, the car dealership that was there, and then that A-frame.
It's further down.
Yeah, I know, but I just thought that whole area was commercial, from there all the way down to San Jose Square.
And I thought it was too.
Yeah, and this is why I find it kind of surprising when this came up, but I don't have an issue with it. I mean, he's coming in, he's asking for the zoning. There's a lot that you can do with 10 acres, Ken. You should look at my 10 acres. I can tell you. I know, but you can put vehicles, you can put equipment. You know, you look at the potential, and you know, even if he does turn around and sell it years down the road, again, there is that potential tax. Not that I'm saying he is or he isn't, but the fact that he's putting something into it right now.
Could be a wrecking yard with a C4.
Right, but, you know.
And, but my issue still is, and why I don't know why our, committee didn't really, you didn't appear before the committee, I understand.
Yeah, I was on vacation, sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, no, but I don't I'm still struggling with all this. There's 60 feet right-of-ways through this whole thing, chopping it all up into pieces. And that's gonna be a real problematic as far as your usage, because it's just these little squares with all of our right-of-ways.
You can ask Mr. Ward, I've already started the application process.
To buy it?
Yeah, well, I wanna work a deal out. It's a lot of square footage out there, but I've already started the application process, right, Mr. Ward?
We talked about it, yeah.
We have talked about it.
So your overall intent is then just take the whole thing and.
I would like to own everything out there, yes, sir.
All right, well, that's good. I know where the intention is.
Oh, yeah.
Cyril, you have anything from Ward 3?
Ken had asked several times, and I know this is an investment
Yes, ma'am.
for you, for the future, right?
Well, it's my business, yes, ma'am.
And I'm understanding that it has a lot of potential. Once we change the zoning to commercial only, you have the choice of doing whatever you want.
Pretty much anything on
Anything,
C4.
anything that you want. And he asked if you had any vision that you could share with us as to what that would be. And do you have anything to share other than it's my business?
So right now, it's zone mobile home. So if I was to bring a semi-trailer and put it out there, a Connex, if I was to put down major building materials, anything like that, I would be in violation. Mr. Ward would come out and he'd say, hey, you gotta get this out here. Same things like in Old Bisbee. Old Bisbee, you know, you can only do so many things. Most of the areas, Miss Hill, out in that area are already zone C4. You have all the gas stations that are out there. You know, you have right on the north side, all in back right there, that's all Freeport property back there, and I work for the mines. And so it's already, like Mr. Aquino said, I'm surprised that it hasn't already been classified as this. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get prepared so that I'm not gonna have any problems with the city. And my intentions are good. I'm not gonna build a wrecking yard back there. I will not build a wrecking yard, I promise that. I love Bisbee, I'm from Bisbee, and I care about this town.
Mayor.
Yeah, just, any comments? Okay, comment from City Manager.
Okay, thank you. Todd, there's a general doctrine in land use that does not allow, a parcel to become landlocked. Okay, so the next sentence about that doctrine is, you can't put the cart before the horse. Okay? Unless you own the property, you can't vacate the right of way. Okay? So while you're planning your future out, even though vacating a right of way and acquiring it may be the easier and faster method of acquiring property, while you're doing that, you will still have to leave the lots that you don't currently control from becoming landlocked. So however you work that out, and of course, any vacated right of way comes before this council, we will be asking that exact same question. So.
What are you referencing?
Well, you had mentioned there's 7 lots. Yeah, well, there's the lot, these lots you told me you want to acquire.
Yes, sir.
And then all of these streets right here, okay?
Yes, sir.
Would have to be vacated. But they can't be vacated if it landlocks any one of these other parcels.
Would the, I understand. That land isn't any, I think we're getting into another conversation here, but that land isn't any good to the city because.
No, that's,
Those are
we don't,
private parcels.
But I
and even
understand.
if it did, we don't care about that right now. What we care about
Mhm.
is that you don't landlock a parcel that belongs to somebody else. You have to leave right of way available to that parcel unless you own it.
But it belongs to the city.
No. Okay, let me show you. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 separate parcels. Those are not city parcels. You got city right of way. You cannot abandon that city right of way unless you acquire those parcels because that would landlock those parcels.
You can't get to it any other way than my argument.
Let me see real quick. Which ones are mine?
This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
When I said I got
7
permission.
parcels.
Yeah.
The city cannot allow a landlocked situation regardless of whether you got permission or not. It's just, it's a.
So what do you do now? I mean, it's.
You would have to acquire those parcels before you could seek to abandon them right away.
Okay,
You
but
cannot
how does that
abandon-
have to do with the zoning?
You had made a comment that you were already in the process with Joe.
I talked about it.
I
I
know.
said I
You were in
talked
the
about
process, talking about it. We're just saying that you can't do that.
So perhaps we could explain this in more detail.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Offline.
That's cool. I mean, you
I
guys,
just
you're
want
getting
you-
to the curveballs all.
I'll be honest, and I'm just gonna say my final, I would never feel that the two parcels, which is 102-16-082, which is the one that abuts next to Florence Scott and her trailer, and also 102-16-083E, those two that are both actually the two that abut up to other homes.
But if I got an easement,
I'm just telling you, those two, I would not ever turn into a C4 without those people being more than notified and understanding. Plus, then you would, those right-of-ways would still stay for most of the other ones. You own everything but what's right behind you, but the other ones I don't have a problem with. But those two I do, and my goal will be I can't allow those two to be changed at this point.
but if I had an easement, then I would be
And
okay,
if and
correct?
when, listen to me, if and when,
I'm just asking
for
a
some
question.
reason, the land gets sold to you and you not own an easement, you own the property,
Uh-huh.
and you're not landlocking anybody else, then we can move forward on those two. But those two are ones that actually, they're on the north side, they're the ones that butt against all the homes. And also are fed by Harrison and the other street, which is what, something way.
You mentioned Benny Scott's property, correct? Mr. Bush?
Well-
You mentioned Benny Scott's property?
Yeah.
Well, so if I got an easement from him, then I would be.
No, that's the property that is right behind Florence. I don't think Benny owns it anymore, but anyway, all that aside, and the other, there's 4 or 5 lots, right, that those two would be butted up against. So
Mhm.
the other ones that are way out there and where the old, whatever track, I don't see a problem.
That
with
never gets
those two.
used, the place
But-
where
But
transits are going
otherwise,
through.
I just don't see otherwise.
Do you see what's happening out there?
Excuse me, you're done. Sit down, please. this is not an argument place. We're discussing with Plum Council. I don't see any need to do 8 acres. I think those 2 small ones, and it still gives you over almost 7 acres, would be more than enough to do whatever you want. And those 2 would be kind of a buffer between the new C4 from the RF. That's what I'm telling everybody in council, how my motion would go if I made a motion. I'm opening it up for discussion.
Question.
Yeah.
This is for the attorney. Do we, because if it does create the landlocked situation, do we have to wait until, is it better for Mr. Conklin to come back before us after that's all cleared and he's got title to it and owns all that property, and then it would just make it a kind of a clean sweep?
Well, there's 2 different issues here. One, he's asking to rezone certain parcels, but then there was also an ancillary discussion with regard to eventually in the future seeking to abandon the city right-of-ways. I was just pointing out that you cannot abandon those right-of-ways because there's approximately 7 other parcels there that are benefited by those right-of-ways. So unless he were to acquire those, we couldn't even have that discussion on a right-of-way abandonment. So it would be up to council if council wants to make a decision and say, we just want to address this all at one time, or you can address the rezoning request now in full, or you can do it as Mayor Budget suggested, just doing certain parcels that have been presented. Totally up to council. I was just pointing out that with regard to the statements that were made about the future abandonment of right-of-way, there are 7 parcels that are benefited by those right-of-ways. Whether those parcels are being used or not, they're privately owned parcels. We cannot abandon a right-of-way that would landlock those parcels.
So is this kind of putting the cart before the horse then?
Not necessarily, because he may or may never, he doesn't ever have to acquire those parcels to be able to use his parcels for his commercial purposes. So if he wants to just say, I want to rezone my properties so I can use them for my commercial purposes, and we're not going to have those discussions about abandonment of right-of-way, then no, it's not unusual or uncommon to do a rezoning such as this. But that would be a discussion that he would have with the.
Go ahead,
I'm just gonna toss this out here. Right now, there's only one thing we could do tonight that would potentially landlock other parcels, and that would be rezone what is designated on this map as parcel 2, property 2. That would leave all the rest of those parcels unlandlocked.
Well, it's not landlocking, it's just changing the zoning.
Right, but he has adjacency to lot number 2 and could develop that immediately. The other ones would be a little more difficult. Now, what I'm hoping that he has the ability to acquire the rest of these parcels, because this is kind of a zigzag collection of properties, and it does make it extremely difficult from a planning perspective.
Yeah, the streets exist, so even though we change the zoning, they could be used down the future for anything, which drives traffic up through Harrison Avenue and then out through what's the name of the street that goes up? Head Start. Thank you. Yeah, so, that's why my suggestion is that we don't do 082 and 083, and then pretty much he has a big L there that he can turn into whatever he wants, and all the right-of-ways stay put. If you look at that, there's 3 parcels on what, 61 or 81, I'm sorry, and 3 parcels that are on 60, and 3 on 79. So those 3, 6, I'm sorry, 2. So there's 8 parcels that would be rezoned, but not all 10 of them. So there's 10 pieces here that he's asking to be rezoned. Anyway, that's my suggestion. And then if he acquires everything else, he can come back and ask for the other 2 pieces down the road. That's my suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna retract
Okay.
one statement. That technically, since Joe put the bug in my ear, we could also do parcel 3, and he could file for a partial abandonment of just the spot between lot 2 and lot 3, and we could rezone 2. The way
82,
it's
you
currently-
mean? 82?
I'm looking at this property map. I'm
79
talking,
would be
the
60.
ones identified as 2 and 3.
79 and 60.
Oh.
But he would have to file for an abandonment of a portion of the right of Head Start.
Brings it back to the council.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to buy the property or you have to abandon it or sell it. So change ownership. That's kind of for us.
I have a question. Sure. So doesn't Head Start wait in there at 2 and 3, Joe? Yeah, I'm looking at this one more better. So you were talking about, doing an abandonment on the street, that's Head Start wait. So that in the street doesn't affect anything.
Just that section.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah, but there's nothing else that's going to adverse with that. But I guess my other question is, if he's given that rezoning for those properties, then that's going to keep him from being in violation of any of our.
My suggestion, since now I look at the other map where you wanted those items, number 5 and 6 would not change, then he could take 4 and the 2 above it, which 4 encompasses all 3, everybody. And 3 encompasses all 3, and 2 encompasses the 2. There's 2 lots there. So you can literally put a fence down on the north side of 4, come along the city, and then he wouldn't be line locking anything, and then the only thing he would have to abandon would be those 2 little pieces between 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 to become part of then the whole thing. You understand? Okay.
I'm not following you on parcel number 4. I don't think you could do that.
You would come down on the north side of 4 until you hit Head Start Way. Okay? And you go along the front of 4 until you hit 3, make a left-hand turn and come all down to 2, which then eventually goes to 1. Remember, the number 2 is not just number 2, it's 2 parcels.
But there's a right of way that goes up that accesses these parcels.
The 5 and 6? Or
Yeah,
which one?
between the 2 and, between the 3 and 4. There's a
Right.
right of way that goes.
Right, and he would have, that would still be ours until we could abandon that one and it wouldn't landlock.
Well, then you've got 4 parcels that are north.
Those are all part of this. The 3 and 4 is not just 4 encompasses all 3 of them. Let me show. That's what's so funny about this.
You got 1, 2, 3.
These are part of this. Yes, it is. If you look at the thing, I looked at it. So 3 encompasses all, that encompasses all 3 of these. This one encompasses all 3 of these. That one parcel is the same for all these.
Could I suggest that you allow staff to work out that level of detail?
Okay, because I went on the parcel map of the county, and that's what it shows. Is this number encompasses all 3, this number encompasses all 3, and this number encompasses these 2.
Because on site, that's not what it tells me.
I know. So whoever put the yellow in there, didn't put them all in there. The yellow should include all of the parcels. Are I right? It isn't just the one.
You want me to come back up? You told me to sit down.
Well, no.
Do you dare?
I'm asking a question.
I'm in timeout, Dad.
Hey, Mayor, could I suggest that we just,
Okay, I'll table it and get I want a better map.
This is the second table, right?
No.
Never come before us before.
this is their first bite.
Okay, got you, all right.
In fact, this is the
Introduction.
public hearing.
Do you want me to come up, Ken?
This
Well,
is,
actually, I'm gonna table this so I can see if I'm right or wrong.
So can I get included in here? Because I've been looking at maps and
Right.
what's going on?
this is a notice of intent. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This is the notice of intent, so
I
you're
know.
gonna actually read the ordinance in 2 weeks.
Well, I'm sorry, but I still don't feel like I would want to do the two that are in fair mark anyway.
Okay, well, I'm saying, staff, you can do the technical corrections and bring it back to in 2 weeks, unless you want to.
And you could do the notice of intent and exclude those two,
And then bring it back.
and then bring it back with the corrections.
Did you,
Or you
I am
could-
right, am I not, that all those three are all part of one parcel?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We believe you, Mayor, we
Okay.
just wanna make the corrections and we think we can do it.
You know, I might have just said a false statement right there. I think you baited me into that with those little eyebrows you got going
But
on.
that's what I do, you know? Thanks, Todd. No, so I'll make a motion to pass the notice of intent with the subject that the staff will bring back a true yellow of all the pieces that are labeled here, because they're not, we're not labeling them all. Anyway, to rezone parcels 102-16-079, 102-16-080, and 102-16-81 to RC at this time.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, now that we have a second, can I
Yep.
Sure.
Is it just these three parcels?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These 8. These two are. These two have butt up against.
On the one map, they don't have parcel numbers on them, but they have lines from the old parcels. So it looks like they're separate properties, but looking at the rest of the map, everything that has a parcel is a separate parcel, has a parcel number on it. And those don't have numbers on them, so they, looks like they would be, that would be all part of that.
Yeah, so we're not just doing the yellows, we're doing these and this.
Right, and that's why I kind of like your suggestion.
So I just want these two excluded this time, and then we can change whatever we
We'll
do.
correct the map.
We'll correct the map so that it's crystal.
So that he doesn't have to be delayed. He'll come back in 2 weeks, because this is only the notice of intent. And then he'll come back and we'll have.
Because we gotta correct the map to remove those two that are not included in the motion.
And
Right, and I would like to see all of that cleaned up and cleared up for us, because I believe Mr. Conklin is trying to do the right thing. And just to make it kind of an easier process for everybody involved.
Yep.
That was my only concern.
That's our intent.
I will, you know what, I'm gonna give you an option, sir.
Whoa. How about this?
Come on. Would you rather we table it and not do anything for 2 weeks and bring it back and rediscuss the whole thing? Or would you rather me just go ahead and move forward with the notice so that it would actually happen next time?
Help me, Ken.
With the exclusion of those two.
Help me here. So what are we proposing?
Okay, so either we
I
table.
want to look at the map, so while you're talking.
So what he's saying is, right now, the motion excludes those two parcels.
Okay, that's
cool. It includes all that.
Okay.
So he's
And then
saying.
this will all.
Yeah, but then it's
Yeah,
another 2 weeks
Well,
after that.
Well, we should just go with it.
Look, the only option for us is for them to adopt the notice of intent.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, that's what, I know, I want to see, so it doesn't have to continue to
That's not a motion.
Yeah, just that's what I'm
That's my
asking, yeah.
It's just, the motion excludes those two. That's all.
At this point.
At this point. And then we'll come back and we'll have this
Well,
clarified.
could we get this one done today, and then in the 2 weeks, then we could get the other
Well,
ones?
then we'll.
That's exactly what I'm telling you to
Okay.
do.
Okay.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the table, let's move forward at this point. There's a motion and a second to rezone APN 102-16-079. This is a notice of intent. 102-16-080 and 102-16-081 from RM to C4 with a notice of intent. And with staff bringing back corrected maps for those particular areas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Hearing none. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, we got through that mapping mess.
That's what he wants, walks out.
Well,
The rule is they have to sit through the whole.
all right, here we go. I'm trying to get down to item 5. There's a lot of maps here. Okay. Item 5. This will be discussion and possible approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between Cochise County and the Bisbee Police Department for the purpose of providing regional special weapons and tactics support. Chief Scott Cox, whatever that blue thing is.
I'll take Scott if that means I don't have to.
My mouth is getting
I
dry.
can disappear.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. What this is a proposed agreement between Cochise County and the City of Bisbee. One thing that's not on here, it's not just City of Bisbee, it was opened up county-wide. So what the Sheriff's Office is attempting to do is they are wanting to open up their SWAT team, Special Weapons and Tactics team, county-wide and create a regional county SWAT team that includes all county police agencies. It's a pretty standard agreement between us and the Sheriff's Office. If the agreement is approved, it allows us to participate in SWAT activities, get that specialized training, get the specialized knowledge that we need to respond to certain situations. But it also includes the fact that now the SWAT team has to come to Bisbee if we need them. There is a cost associated with this that you see inside the agreement. That cost is training, weapons, ammunition, stuff that's normally budgeted for the police department anyway. The training school is free on that aspect. I do have some numbers if you need them. More importantly, hopefully you guys are getting and understand how I operate. By becoming a member of SWAT team or participating in SWAT operations, that opens up grant opportunities, which includes body armor, vehicles, weapons.
Rico?
Maybe, depending on how we're operating in it.
That's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, to me, that's a 4-letter word.
Sorry. Okay.
So that's also part of this agreement that I've talked to Commander Wilkins about through the CCSO. One thing you might also notice in there, it also allows our fire department paramedics to participate in the SWAT team, which opens up grant opportunities for our fire department. I vaguely discussed this with Jim Richardson regarding that. I reached out to him again tonight and told him I would be more than happy to have Commander Wilkins come over to his department to talk to his staff because I don't want to speak on his behalf. But that's basically it in a nutshell. Most people misunderstand SWAT. They think it's a bunch of guys going blow up doors and all that. That's not what it is. It's more about that specialized training and the ability to handle certain situations that arise that normal police officers are slightly trained in, but not to the level that they're trained in. And it'll just help us immensely, and it's good for the team. So.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. No. Okay. My question is, so you're talking about training. So is this utilizing our officers and the county together?
It's a regional joint SWAT team. It'll be, I have to provide, if I want to participate, it enables my officers to go and join their team in a joint mutual agreement.
So if Benson has a SWAT situation, two of ours, I mean, let's say we have two, our two would then go in that response?
Part of the agreement that I sent to the council states in there that we are required to respond when needed. We have to train every 3 weeks. So I have to give up an officer for a full day, irregardless, to go train.
No, that, I just wanted to make sure. Also, is it based out of, the sheriff's department here, or is it, where they?
I can't speak to the sheriff's
You don't
office
know?
operations. I know that the training facility is here next to the jail, but as far as where their command center and stuff, I'm sure they wouldn't like people to know that,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not
Never
going to
mind,
speak
never
to
mind,
that.
never mind. No, I was just wondering on response time and such.
Yeah.
Okay, I was kind of hoping that somebody from CCSO would be here to answer some of these questions. But you answered one, that we would have training every 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't have an issue. Fortunately, we haven't needed a SWAT situation, but we may. And I would like to think that CCSO would respond whether we have an agreement or not.
They do, but there's cost factors, so.
Right.
And this opens up things. And just so I can speak to it, we have had situations where that was a possibility. We've had 3 recently where that was a extreme possibility, but it ended different. So they're there, they do exist.
And so how many officers are we looking at training, or is it something that we just want to start out with a couple and then eventually get everybody trained, you know, because of days off and PTO, you know, that kind of stuff?
Scheduling under our responsibility to make sure that we have the appropriate officers to cover a shift. This will not interfere with our operations or our coverage for police officers at all. That's my responsibility, and if I goof that up, I'm gonna be in trouble, so that's not gonna happen. It's open to all officers if they want to be a member of the team. I have no problem with my officers trying out for it. Now, whether or not they're allowed to actually participate in that, or be a backup, or be an alternate, that's all up to us and how we're gonna work it. The city gets covered first, extracurricular activities are second. My officers hear that from me quite often. I will say, because I'm pretty blunt, there is a physical requirement that is extremely brutal. I don't anticipate, the sheriff's office does not have a whole lot of their staff that can pass it. I might have 2 officers that are capable of actually passing it, and I'm not one of them. I made the comment when I watched the physical part of it being done. I looked at the sheriff and said, yeah, I'd be dead right there. So it's not something that just an average person can say, hey, I want to do this. You have to be very prepared for it. So.
Yes, and I think, you know, I think most of us know a lot of that. And so that's why I kind of wanted CCSO here, because I don't know if you can answer, as far as the paramedic, does it have to be a paramedic? Or
It has to be a
EM
paramedic.
Okay, so it can't be an EMT?
Nope.
Okay, I guess that's where I have some, and Chief Richardson isn't here, I think we're short on paramedics.
We don't have to provide one, it's just an opportunity.
It's an option, but the council would have to approve the establishment of a tactical paramedic position and those requirements. There are some entities, and I did, with one of my other municipalities, looked at and drafted policy for a tactical paramedic position, but it's not something that is required under the agreement. It's just a potential if the city will want to do that in the future.
So then, I guess that leads me to ask, would the paramedic also be required to have to pass the physical requirements?
There is according to the agreement in there, I think it's on page 3, there is each candidate must successfully pass the Cochise County Sheriff's Office operator, negotiator, or medic test. So operators, negotiators, and medics are required to test.
And there are additional standards that tactical paramedics are required to qualify under post and different things like that. So it's to establish a tactical paramedic position, it's a whole process that we would have to go through.
So then do they have to become post-certified?
There is a post component, but it's not a post
But not a
certification.
certification?
No, they will not be a peace officer. It's a weapons thing.
Okay. Thank you.
So what happens if no one passes?
Then we have an agreement, and at
So
any
it
given
won't
time.
affect it then? Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to do it. And Commander Wilkins is fully aware, based off success rates, that it may not even be a possibility. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I work out 3 times a week the best I can, and I could not.
I mean, I'll be honest, I talked to Sheriff Daniels a little, mentioned this, and basically his idea, or his comment to me was, he wants to help serve us all, and this just helps put it in writing instead of them showing up and having to bill us later or something. So
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
that was his comment, is that if we do it, great. If you have people that can join us, then wonderful. But we would like it in, an official.
And that's where I'm at, Matt, Mayor, is
Okay.
I would like to do it just because it opens up some
I
opportunities.
didn't necessarily want to say what Chief Daniel said to me, but, yeah, he did. Yeah. All right.
Unfortunately, they denied my request for a tactical attorney position.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, but they'll give you some red lights.
Maybe we can add that in the
You could do
verbiage
it.
here.
Put in
All
a
right.
motion.
All right, I'll entertain a motion if somebody would like to.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Cochise County and Bisbee Police Department for the purpose of providing regional special weapons and tactics support to SWAT.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 5, which is the intergovernmental agreement with Cochise County and Bisbee Police Department to, in purpose for providing the original special weapons tactics support team. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. So moved. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
All right, let's get on to item 6. This will be a discussion of possible approval of a special event agreement for 5 years between DeWitt Communications Company and the City of Bisbee for the Bisbee 1000 stair climb. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. You know this is a big item on the agenda when the publisher sends his photographer to take pictures. Hasn't been here in a while. Okay, this was introduced to council once before and put on the back burner pending some further work. Essentially, the city attorney working with staff and with WIP Communications has drafted an agreement to essentially operate the stair climb event. I'm going to try and keep that generic because certain people like it said different ways, but I'm going to do it my way. For the next 5 years. Essentially, the elements of this agreement are very simply in a lot of ways recognizing what we do currently on an annual basis and how we handle it. The big difference is of course the length of the term, and essentially I've had a couple of questions and I did have an email which I shared with you in front of you tonight from one of our citizens. And one of the concerns that she had expressed was locking in for 5 years. I will point out to you that we have made allowances for that. There is a termination clause in the agreement. So, and that would be in case of a real train wreck. And I would say that it's extremely unlikely that this termination would even be considered, but it's for the protection of the city, it's for protection of the other party if they need it. And so, I hesitate to bring things like that up because I want this to recommend this to go forward in a positive fashion. But since there is considerable change in the way we're doing business with regard to the Bisbee 1000, it merits a good bit of discussion. Both the current operator and the future operator of the Bisbee 1000 are in the room tonight and stand ready to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. We have one person signed up. Larry Saunders, come on up.
Thank you. Larry Saunders. I'm the board of directors with the Bisbee Vogue, and also retired division manager for KEG, the paving contractor throughout the county. And I so totally support the Bisbee 1000 going forward as a state. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. All right. We'll open this up for discussion. I did want to address a couple of things that were in that letter. it kept referring to a 5-year permit, but rather what we're entering into is not a 5-year permit, but rather an agreement guaranteeing that we're reserving that Saturday and certain areas for them to take out their yearly permit, which must be based on this agreement. So this agreement spells out who does what on each side, so that there's no conflicts. It's just like we do on many other agreements, whether it's the Saturday market that we just continually re-up every time, or one of the other situations. I know there's a question about how many years, how people will say, well, then everybody will come for a 5-year, and my stand on that is you put on a 30-year event without any injuries or any problems, and then you can come and ask me for a 5-year permit. Because this is something that's been around for a long, long time, and we're not really changing anything other than just keeping it going after 32 years. So then I guess my other comment might be that, the Whig family, I mean, they started the paper here in the early 1900s. I mean, they're part of Bisbee, and I just believe that since this is going to move on to somebody, I have talked to the current owner back there, and she's ready to push it on. And when I look at it, I said, well, I'd rather have somebody that has a good reputation, has a viable company, and is somebody that has ties to this community taking it on, than some Tom, Dick, and Harry out of Tucson that's doing something else that we have no background with at all. So outside of that, that's basically my comments about it. I'll open it up for.
Well, I agree with the mayor and his comments. What communication companies have been around and a successful company. They're from this town. I feel they will do a good job.
But anybody has any questions, she's more likely, or right here, and if you'd like to come up and say something, yeah. I see you got a little notebook there. So.
Well, I do. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to stand up here before you all. We want to make some just clarifying comments. So, yes, our family company has been around for 97 years. And we've actually only been in the county, though, since the 60s. So I want to clarify that. So 97 years young. From the 60s. However, it's ironic to be standing up here before you. I was born in the Copper Queen Hospital. My mother was born in the Copper Queen Hospital. And my grandmother was born in the Copper Queen Hospital. And so I feel very privileged to be able to stand here and talk a little bit about Bisbee 1000, where, in fact, we were a founding sponsor of this event. Our family's been involved. Our company's been involved. And it's something that we have been very fond of for many, many years. Just to kind of speak to a couple of the questions that are being posed and why this is important. First of all, it's important for our family company that is based out of Sierra Vista because we naturally focus in and are building more events. Out of the Herald Review, you've probably seen we have a number of events. Our publisher, Jennifer Sorensen, who's here tonight, does a phenomenal job honoring academic all-stars, honoring the best of preps, which are high school athletes throughout the county, from Douglas to Benson to Sierra Vista. And our best of events bring hundreds and hundreds of people together and honor them over and over again. And one reason I would say this relationship is very important is because we're staking our name on it. So I'm originally from here. This event means a tremendous amount to the community. And vis-a-vis, it means a tremendous amount to us. We have purposefully focused on serving the community. And that is why Whig Communications has been working with Cynthia. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge Cynthia and the amazing event that she has created and the impact that it has had as something that will go on and help to bring visitors and participants to the community, promote the community. A lot of what the Bisbee 1000 is and the infrastructure aligns with what our company's about. And that's why it's a beautiful partnership. And the partnership is not just between us and the event, Bisbee Vogue, it's also about the community. And that's why we stand up here today. Just to kind of conclude on the one comment about the multi-year permit. Quite frankly, a multi-year permit is necessary because of the way the event exists. It's a long-standing event. Everyone expects it to be the third weekend of October. From a planning standpoint, it's very important that people are all on the same page of when the event will take place and what it will look like. In fact, one of the most fascinating pieces of this event is that about 50 to 60% of the participants re-register after 1 month.
After 1 day?
After 1 day.
The day
After
of
1
the
day.
event.
So we literally have to prepare for the following year on the weekend that has been established for nearly 32 years. And that is why we're standing up here requesting this partnership and this agreement to move forward. So.
Thank you. Questions?
Does that
Comments?
do you have any questions? So what is the 5-year guaranteeing anyway? Is it guaranteeing that that spot is gonna be set for you?
Yes.
So why is it so important now to have a 5-year agreement? I mean, it's always been the same every year. There's been no conflict. Why are you guys requesting a 5-year?
The intention is to avoid conflict, right? So that we're all on the same page.
So other than your best of events, which I participated as a coach, I know your best of events, and they're appreciated. What other event experience do you have, like on the scale of Stairplane?
Excellent. So this would hands down be the largest event. We have multiple events that we work from a community standpoint. In fact, in Wenatchee, Washington, which are one of our newspapers, we hold the 3rd largest winery event in the state. So wineries from all around the Northwest region come to Wenatchee. We fly in professional judges and universities. The viticulture researchers come in, they work with our staff, they look at the wines, and ultimately they judge, and it concludes in a very fun, enjoyable event, and it's something that we've conducted.
So is there going to be a minimum back out period? God forbid you guys come down the road and decide that you can't do it for some reason. I know doom and gloom here, but is there a minimal back out period so that can give someone else that weekend if they choose to do an event? Is there anything written into that about that? I didn't see it. That's why I didn't see it. There's a clause. Is it right there?
Termination provision requires 180 days.
Okay, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Paragraph 6.
So in the insurance, they just have to pay normal year to year. It's not, like they'll have, since we have a 5-year agreement, there's no.
Yeah, because what it is, the permit does not be an issue for 5 years. It's just an agreement that we're going to reserve those days for this event. And every year, they still have to go through the permitting process. So they would have to pull a permit every year and comply with all the requirements of that permit.
If the fee schedule changes or we change, then they would pay the new fees.
So to the fees, since the Stairclimb was a nonprofit, I guess, so this was to you or you, were they given, the Stairclimb given specific differences because sometimes the fees differ if you're a nonprofit versus a profit, no?
No. You can ask city manager, we go by our fee schedule, that's what we made it, and that's. Now, there is times, as you know, we waive fees for certain events, but outside of that, it's the standard fee schedule. That's how many police officers they need, how many dumpsters they need, how many blah, blah, blah.
So again, that takes us back, since it's not a nonprofit, then that shouldn't qualify then for that, should it? Because it's generally done for nonprofits, the waiving.
No, the fee schedule's for everyone, just like Saturday market.
Right, I mean the waiving, because I don't think we.
Well, any waive fees would have to come before us.
Right.
The agreement provides that they pay the fees in effect at the time when they pull the permit.
So it says for number F, or letter F number. Event promoter shall work with the city to assist in the restoration and maintenance of the stairways used for the G100. What exactly does that consist of?
It's just, it's a provision that I put in there to acknowledge that the event has an interest in the stairways, the city has an interest in the stairways, and if the city engages in future improvements, that they would participate in helping with those improvements. There's no specific requirement. It's just an acknowledgement of the mutual interest in those stairways to make sure that
So it's just verbiage with no clarification.
it's
Sorry?
internal work, it's legal.
No, I'm not saying it's not legal, I said it's verbiage with no clarification, it's not like, oh, they're gonna put X
There's no
amount of money.
specific, there's no
Right.
specific requirement, it's just an agreement that if, because we don't even know, the city hasn't even established it, and there's no current plan to do any improvements right now. It's just that, acknowledges that if that does happen, the parties will work together.
So,
Saying that,
no, go ahead, no, go ahead.
we do this on an annual basis and it's been successful for way before I lived here at Bisbee. And, since I'm a newbie, I can say that when I came here, it said that all the resources that the thousands, their time was, part of that commitment was to maintain steroids, right? That's rumor.
No, 30 years ago when
30
they
years ago.
first started, and back when, I'll be honest, I was the president at one time, I asked the board if we could put X number of dollars towards the city, and we did put that towards their repair and upkeep. The board after that decided to go off into recreation and other ways to promote, so so yeah, it's history, and that's out of a 30-year history, there could be a lot of water under the bridge.
Okay, so, but I bring it up because 30 years have occurred, and once a year we have several thousand people that are running up and down the stairwells. So there should be noticeable repairs that need to be done. Okay? So we have this in here that says the city and you will come to an agreement if they're necessary for us to repair some of the stairs. Would that actually occur? Or would the city be primarily responsible for repairing the stairs?
Legally, the city's responsible for the stairs because they're public stairways. So what this does is it just provides a provision that we will, if the city, right now the city doesn't have any current plans to do repairs on the stairs. That's something that would have to go in the capital improvement budget and be planned out. This is just saying that if there's going to be future repairs, that they will work with the city in assisting with that. It doesn't require a specific percentage, it doesn't require a specific amount. It just acknowledges that they've got an interest in maintaining the stairs, the city has an interest in maintaining the stairs. But they are city property, just like the streets are. If you were saying that if they ran a marathon down the street, that they would be responsible for repairing the street. It's just, it's a provision that I included in there. Just, I thought that the council would want to know that they would be part of that discussion if the city establishes repair plans in the future.
Anything else?
Not yet.
So I did have one other question. So when were you planning on taking over, and what training have you gone through to take over? Has have you ever worked it?
Excellent question. So, in fact, this year, Cynthia and Bisbee Vogue Inc. will take the lead in conducting the event. Once again, our staff will be working alongside to make sure that we have all the information that we need. And there will be a relationship between Bisbee Vogue Inc. and our company as we continue to move forward. We all have a vested interest, including with the city. I mean, at the end of the day, the event only really exists if there are stairs. So it's from my standpoint, it's a very important process for us to be working alongside those who have the experience.
So this year will be your training year, and then you take over next year.
But thank you, I appreciate that.
I don't have a problem with the 5-year agreement here, only because it ensures the continuity of that weekend that's set aside. And I know that it's gone on for so many years, and, you know, we can say, well, you know, what's to say it's not gonna continue, but we just ran into this over, Pride Weekend, and some of the issues that, you know, they had always had, and it's just been one of those things, and then somebody else is trying to step in. So I think this agreement helps keep it, you know, moving the way it should. And that was gonna be my question, is Cynthia going to stay on as a consultant? Will you be on the board?
I'll never go away. I'll die. But I will remain the founder and president of the nonprofit, which, as I like to say, by getting the, as Jody Giacomino helped 1 year and never came back, it's a complicated event. But he has more resources than Bisbee Vogue, which is this little tiny. This event outgrew Bisbee Vogue many, many years ago, probably without the help of people like Ken and numerous people that even our city manager here. This thing would have stopped a long time ago. And quite frankly, it is such an iconic event. And just for y'all's information, I just can't help but pat myself on the back with this one. We just got an invitation, I and Bisbee Vogue, to present at the look at my phone here because I'm so tired. What's that big event? The city League of Cities and Towns. Yeah, we're gonna be on a panel called "The Cultivating of Cultural Economy" through an events like how Bisbee 1000 has helped Bisbee. Those people who manage and run this event next year in August will be there presenting how we did what we did, why we did what we did, how much longer we're going to do it, which will give us a chance to brag on the city, the council, the city manager, the WIC. So I'll be around, but boy, this burden needs to be shared because it outgrew me a few years ago, and it's just been luck that we got this far. Luck and hard work. So look at this young man with his young children, with his muscles, with his long history here in this town. We feel charmed to have created something that a company the caliber of WIC Communications, as Ken hinted. We don't want some Joe Blow from out of town, you know, coming in here and trying to make a few bucks off our town. I guarantee it, because all of us live in and love this town very much, as you all know. So, thanks a bunch. That's it. I'll be here, but only working for BVI and assisting him and continuing to turn arms because we need lots of volunteers for this coming year. Okay.
This is go ahead. No.
Oh, and I also wanted to add that I really appreciate Ms. Rest putting in the termination clause because it's, you know, for an event like this, and yet we have that to protect both parties, and we had a big thing with the wastewater treatment that didn't even have that in there. So, thank you.
We could add a clause that Francis would have to run the race every year.
Okay.
Yeah, then you could be part of the squat team. They say squat or SWAT. All right. Anyone else? Oh, one more. Okay. We're gonna move on.
In C here it says, an event promoter will take all actions necessary to avoid conflicts with others. So if there is a conflict with the schedule, you're not saying that this is a contract that they have 5 years. You're saying this is that every year they are going to resubmit to have, as they've done in the past, correct? So if someone wanted to have a vendor in Grassy Green, would that be a conflict?
Yeah, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but
That would not be allowed. What this does is it reserves those. We're talking conflicts with, there are certain areas where, like days, the 2 days before where they're doing setup. They have to work with those areas, those aren't specifically reserved. The day of the event, all of those areas are reserved for the race. Now what that does is it doesn't include other areas of the city that are completely unrelated, like Vista Park and stuff like that. But it does specifically reserve on the day of the event all of those areas.
So it specifies the day, the third week on Saturday in October, and certain areas. The three parks and certain areas in front of certain stairwells so that people can get to them. That way, why I like this is because it is spelled out. It actually says, this is what you get, this is what our responsibilities are. And that's much cleaner than having somebody having to come. But just like, Anna said, I mean, we had Howell Avenue was used for a certain event, and then a new person came in and wanted the same area, and we were in a conflict of how we were gonna do that. So this just takes that away, and that's, seems to me like a reasonable situation. And if somebody has 20 years of experience, I'll listen to them for a 5-year permit again. But anyway, that answer your question? Okay. So, we're all done. Why don't we make a motion and see where we go here. So, I'll move to approve a 5-year special event agreement between the Wick Communication Company and the City of Bisbee for the Bisbee 1000 event.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 6, which is the agreement between Wick Communications and the City of Bisbee. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Yay.
All right, so moved. All right, moving on to item 7. This is discussion going out to bid for a contractor for City Hall construction. Lord Almighty. I'll give you guys a second to leave the room. Clear the room.
Unless you want to stay.
I don't think you got too many notes over there.
But nobody wants to stay in college. I'm shocked.
Well, let's get through these two. All right, for us right now is item 7, which is going out to bid for a contract for City Hall construction. City Manager Hawken.
Yes, just briefly, to know what's important when the reporter leaves the room, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is important.
Yeah.
No more pictures.
Okay, so, on June 1st of 2022,
What is that?
I don't know. We received 5 bids for the reconstruction of the City Hall building on Arizona Street, and that might be mine. Okay, long story short, what we ended up doing, due to the lowest bid being $900,000 above our budget, we made an attempt to see if we could make it work, and after 2 weeks, we brought a recommendation to council to reject all bids.
Lovely.
Weird.
Very good.
Okay? In the meantime, we have been talking to various engineers and construction firms who have, some whom we have contacted and some whom have contacted us, for the purpose of seeing if there were some alternatives to either the method of construction or the construction plans of the building, in order to bring it into line with the budget that we had set at the time of $3.2 million. At that point, it was clear that we couldn't, but it was also clear that we had been victimized to some degree by what was occurring in the marketplace, starting at the Fed and working down through all the other levels. So, and being blunt, a little bit of gouging going on. And everybody who I've talked to that's in the profession that I pointed at a figure and said that's gouging, nobody argued with me. So that means it's well recognized that there was some going on at the time. Conditions haven't changed a whole lot in the period of time between then and now, although what we have seen in speaking with construction managers, engineers, and contractors who had not previously bid for this project is that there are a couple of different ways that we can possibly bring it not down to our $3.2 million budget, but possibly keep it down into the mid-threes, if you will. And in fact, we met with a local contractor was it last week, Logan? That although he was asking for something we could give him legally, he had described the method he would use to bid the project, which is somewhat different than what others have done, and would be legal. We've had a half a dozen contractors ask us if they could just get our blessings to go ahead and start building. We all know that's impossible. And, but, I mean, an enterprising contractor has to ask, right? And so they did. And of course, then we said no. So we feel like we can go back out to bid now. We know a little bit more about our own plans and our own specs that we can write into the specs the proper latitude to allow, with approval of course, for alternatives of equal value. And in doing so, bringing the price of construction down to an area that we had at first expected, or close to it. Our house engineer from Zacatecas Engineering, he has revised the specs to the degree that we asked him to, and updated the specs that had been originally drafted by Albert Hopper. And Zacatecas Engineering, for the same fee that Mr. Hopper would have charged, has agreed to be the owner's representative for the construction. So we think we're in a position now to give it another shot. And so what we'll do, starting tomorrow, is Public Works and Mr. Kiger will set about the task of getting it on the street. And we're probably going to put it on the street for somewhat, I think we were out there for a couple of months the last time we did. We're going to shorten that period of time. It's either going to be 3 or 4 weeks. It's not an unknown project. It's plans that people have already seen and have had an opportunity to work with, or not, as they choose. And so it's our hope that with a little bit more flexibility in the specification, the way it's written, that we might be able to agree on a bid moving forward, because what we would like more than anything else is we would like to get that thing out of the ground before the end of the year. So that's our plan moving forward. Does not require approval of council, but we wanted you to be in the loop as far as what our plans are. And of course, we wanted to mention it in our public meeting so that the public who are listening and have a right to know, have an idea what we're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a desire of mine, and what I see happening, they're working next door right now, and they started to hire an architect, and they're gonna start making this into the new shelter. We may be out of here, who knows? I mean, we need to move forward on this, and hopefully we can make it happen. I know we still have a lease on it.
Yes, we do have a little bit of a legal document on
Yeah,
our side.
I know. But we also want to get along with the county, so.
Yes, we do.
So if we can get this ours out of the ground, then we can give them a date maybe when we can abandon the double wide and actually have a council chamber. So anyway, that's been my goal since I was elected, so I'm glad that we're moving forward. I hope everybody happy. Okay, we'll see what comes back. All right, thanks, Eric. Really, the next one is also item 8, which is discussion and possible approval of the first amended subscriber agreement between the City of Bisbee and CCOM for the Regional 911 Communications. Oh my goodness, it's a 5-year contract. Sorry. I just had to say that.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
It's late.
The difference between the contract that we have with CCOM now and what this amendment does is it takes us from 4 days, from operating our own dispatch center 4 days a week to totally putting it in CCOM's hands. We were Tuesday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our local dispatcher was handling the radio traffic, and that has already ceased, as a matter of fact. And so CCOM we will go full time with CCOM. As you probably noticed tonight, we've been in the last year we've been through a lot of glitches, growing pains, familiarity. Call it, anything you want. Anytime you adopt a new system and put different people in the chair, you're going to have issues, and we've had plenty, and we've resolved all of them that we have confronted so far. And then you find out about things like West Boulevard, which you never knew before. But as the mayor mentioned earlier, are easy to adopt a change once we identify it. I have been attending CCOM board meetings ever since we joined, and I will have a vote at the next one because we were not a voting member until we went full time, and so this will give us a say at the table. And other than that, we do with the executive staff, we do meet with them from time to time, and that meeting always includes the fire chief, the police chief, and myself, if not other people as needed. So we do have an open line of communication, and that relationship continues to grow, and I believe that it will be successful. And we talked about this a year ago, and it's still important, I believe. The cost of this agreement is, for the next 5 years, is $126,000 a year. I can't remember the exact number, but the last budget we had for a full-time dispatch center was over $250,000 a year. So we are, again, spending less by making a positive change. So staff recommends wholeheartedly to approve the First Amendment to the subscriber agreement.
Thank you. Questions?
I do have.
Start on my right.
Boy, I sure wish that there was somebody from CCOM here to answer some of these questions. And I know that it was said earlier that Sheriff Daniel said that this was all a fix on some of these streets, but, and just using the earlier example, of West Boulevard, well, that same street, it starts out as Main Street, then it becomes Tombstone Canyon, then it goes into West Boulevard, and then it goes into Old Divide Road without ever leaving that road. And so I have some issues with, and I know we had talked about it before, about them not knowing each individual city, like we do, like our dispatchers would. And I, obviously I respect the dispatchers because they are the first responders. But I just have, I don't know, I just have some issues with this, and I do have an issue with the 5-year contract on this particular one.
Okay, and so in partial response to your question, these are not issues that hit the board level first. There's a separate operations committee. Chief Cox sits on the operations committee. He's going to be the guy sitting with the county IT people and working out the solution that the mayor made look really easy tonight. So that's built into the system. People who operate, the first responders, have their own committee, and that's where they work out issues of that nature.
Joni first, I'm working my way.
So, yeah, I too have an issue with the 5-year contract, and I have questions, response time. Speaking from experience, how many years ago was it? 13 years ago, when the lockers fell on my kid at the swimming pool, I had a response time of 3 minutes for them to respond. When my mother had her stroke, it was almost 20 minutes. And I sat and argued with the dispatch person because I couldn't get her through her head that I knew my mother had a stroke, and all she wanted to do was continue to ask me a list of questions, which I get. But all I said to her was send an ambulance because I know my mother had a stroke. And she proceeded to argue with me the whole time. And that's when I got a little ballistic. And I have no respect for CCOM because of that. I've had calls to CCOM after that, where the dispatch has been extremely rude, asking me for directions. And I said, Warren Ballpark. Well, what is the address of Warren Ballpark? I have no idea what the address of Warren Ballpark. If I talk to a police officer here in Bisbee, they know exactly where I am. At that time, I was calling to try to get a police officer because I had handicapped people with no place to park because people were parked in their spots. They were having to walk with walkers from Rupee for graduation. And I kept telling the dispatch person, and she finally said to me, what were the crossroads? And I said Arizona Street and Rupee, which she finally, rather chastisingly, said she would send a police officer who never showed up. So there is some definite disconnect with Bisbee. And my concern is response time. And like I said, it was a little disturbing that it took so long when I could have called, and to this day I kick myself why I just didn't dial it straight through. And I just, at this point, I don't have anything, I don't even want to say positive, but I don't have a lot of faith in it. And I would rather wait and not do a 5-year until they get their act together. Because I know of someone else who called, an elderly woman fell. They called, they had the same exact experience I did. It took 15 minutes before anybody responded to the woman that fell. She had to be transported. And again, it's like, I guess we've been spoiled by our Bisbee Fire Police and police because of the response time before CCOM. And I don't know, like I said, I'm speaking from it personally. So.
Well, just to add to that, we've always bragged on our response rate because there's never been any hesitation. And that is concerning, I think, response time.
I can't speak for CCOM, but I was involved in a similar situation where I came from and was a first responder. And generally all those questions, you think they're still waiting to send, but they actually kick them out. And then on my response, they will come back and give me more information about what is going on. So that happened almost on every single call I ever went on was, did a response such woman down. That's all we knew. And then on my way there, they would tell me rescue 16, yes. We have a woman that's unconscious, that blah, 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 everything. So I don't know if that's what's happening here, but that's what should be happening. That's the standard protocol is they'll ask a few first questions, they'll hit the button, push people out, and then ask you to continue a bunch more to find, and then help you if you need to do CPR or whatever. But that's where I would go with it and ask that's something that we follow up on. I'm sure that's their protocol. That's what it is across the nation.
Do we need a fail-safe then?
Well, here's the problem. We don't have any dispatchers. we can't hire any. So I don't, this is.
We don't have any dispatchers and we no longer have a 911 console. The state took the console away from the city. It's gone.
So we're kind of
Okay.
between the rock and the hard spot. But if there is instances like that, I want to know about them, and I will personally ask my board member, and I'll push it up to the commander, which is Chief Daniels.
Well, and quite frankly, you can call the board member and tell him. That's the most direct way into the system. Now, let me respond a little bit here, because, first of all, there's a protocol and there's a system. And the system is for the dispatchers to handle calls in certain ways. Now, just being blunt, okay? If you choose to argue with the dispatcher, you're gonna slow down the response time. Period. That's gonna happen, okay? The mayor said what actually happens. They will put the vehicle on the road as they get the answers from the caller. As soon as they know the nature of the situation, they will dispatch a unit, whether it's police unit, fire unit, medic unit. Okay? Now, change is hard. Okay? But the change already occurred. Okay? We lost our console. We didn't have a choice. It's going much faster and better than it was 6 months ago and a year ago. And it will continue to improve. And so, you say no to this, we're basically out of ball. And, that's your choice to vote yes or no. But quite frankly, if we don't have it, then we're worse off than if we do have it.
And they require a 5-year contract.
Please, we'll let the attorney give the contract.
Yeah, they're, for full membership, they're asking for a 5-year contract, but there is a voluntary withdrawal provision in the IGA that allows you to voluntarily withdraw with a sufficient amount of notice, because basically what they're saying is CCOM's budget is based off of participants' membership. So if a participant is going to voluntarily withdraw, there's a certain number of days, looking at 6 months prior to the start of the next fiscal year is what the provision provides for. So yes, it's a 5-year agreement. Again, because of budgetary reasons, they want to know who's going to be participating. They have to plan ahead, they have to buy equipment, they have to have sufficient dispatchers. But there is a voluntary withdrawal provision in the original IGA. All this agreement, this amendment does is acknowledge that we're now going to be a full-time participant, a voting member, and establishes what that annual amount is for that full-time participation.
Right, so it seems if, as the city manager said, if we don't approve this, then we have nothing. We have to reinvent the wheel. So I think the way to proceed is to go with this and then try to work out the bugs. That's just the way it's gonna go.
Any other comments?
My question.
Sure.
On the voluntary, recall timeframe, what is the timeframe?
The voluntary withdrawal provision states that this IGA will renew automatically with or without, unless terminated with or without cause by a participant at least 6 months prior to the start of the next fiscal year. Because the CCOM budget will be based on participants' membership in CCOM, such termination will not take effect until the end of the fiscal year in which the notice was provided, and the terminating participants' obligations under this IGA shall continue through the end of that fiscal year. So although it is a 5-year term, most of these types of IGAs have that. Unlike what happened before with a certain wastewater treatment plant, try to make sure that there is a termination provision, and typically the termination provision, just like with what we did earlier, provides sufficient time for the parties to address that withdrawal. So what this does is it basically says you've got to get enough time so we can address this through the budgetary process.
So technically, the state's put us over a barrel and given us no choice.
Right.
So if we chose to withdraw, then where do we withdraw to? There's no way to go back. We can't get a 911 system back.
You'd have to stand up your own system.
So if they're putting us over a barrel, then why don't they have to pay the fees?
Why do they ever?
I'm just saying. Because there's a lot of bugs in this big time.
I'd say the big benefit that you're getting is that you now have a voting membership in the entity that you did not have before. And that will have a significant impact.
Right, and that's the only, I think, the only bright side to this, because there are so many issues with CCOM. And I don't know, I mean, I would hope that now that we are a full-time member that, with voting rights, and then we will get our own channel now, I'm assuming, where before we didn't?
I can't speak to that. It will be, we will operate in similar fashion to what we're operating now. That's all I can tell you at this point. I will add that Wilcox is now also a voting member as of July 1st. That changes the flavor of the board just a little bit.
Yes, and we have discussed that, so, I think that's the only thing. I would just really like to see us look at this down the road a little more clearer.
All right. I think we kind of said our piece. I'll be honest, we switched over to a master thing like this from my county. We took care of 17 cities within Solid County. I'm telling you, the first 6 months and 9 months was a bit of the cluster, okay? Honestly. It took some time for all of us to get used to how that was done, and they get used to us. And so, yeah, they may never know where Elmo's is or Warren Ballpark, but because it won't come up on their screen. But they do have a standard set of protocols, and what I liked about it when I was doing this was the fact that I could talk to anybody. When I needed to talk to the sheriffs because I had an issue on a road or something, I just say, put me on to the sheriff's line or whatever, their channel, I'm sorry. And they give it to me, and I would talk to the people up in the canyon and say, hey, I got an avalanche, and I need you guys to do this and that. And we never had that ability before, and they were able to just move us around and put us on our own single channel when we had a big event. We didn't have to have all this cross traffic over us. There was a lot of pluses, but it took a while to get it all worked out and used, but it did in the end. So I have faith that it will work out, and we just have to address each one of these issues as they come up, and let Chief Cox and City Manager Paulton take those up to the two boards that run the thing. So that's what I'll ask the public to do. Let me know or let them know so we can address them. So with that, anybody want to make a motion, or you can leave it to me?
I move to approve the First Amendment subscriber agreement between the City of Bisbee and CCOM for Regional 911 Communications.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second for item 8 to approve the First Amendment subscriber agreement between the City of Bisbee and CCOM. I'll do a roll call.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Nay.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes 4-1. All right, moving on to the city manager's report. I've requested that every city manager's or item on the agenda or within the city manager's comments that we have a little update on how we're doing on the pool. I get asked that a lot, and so I think I'd like to have it out there on a regular basis. So Anyway, go ahead. Steve.
Okay, thank you. Real brief update on the pool. We did acquire a new camera system that will in fact get in the pipes of that pool. Our normal camera system for sewer lines is too big to get into those particular size pipes. So that device was delivered to us last week. And hopefully sometime this week, we're starting 2 camera pipes. Is there anything you want to add to that, Logan?
No, just almost got the pole emptied out, and once that's down again, we're gonna take a look and see how bad the arteries are.
So basically, that's what we're doing. We're gonna take a look at the arteries. It's the circulatory system of the pool.
Been a delay because we asked companies to come down and do it for us and they didn't want to come down.
There are 2 companies in Tucson that do this same kind of work and both refused to
Yeah,
come.
so then we got.
So we decided to buy our own device.
All right, thank you, sir. Go on with anything else.
Okay, yeah, just a couple of other things I just wanted to mention, that from our perspective, all of the events on, yesterday, on Independence Day, went smoothly. No major issues of any kind. Unfortunately, one of our employees became ill, while on the job, during the parade and had to be taken to the hospital. Since we can't talk directly to him for HIPAA purposes, we're talking to the family right now to see where he is on the thing. So, and I can't mention his name for the same reason, but if you would, please keep that employee in your thoughts and prayers as he gets checked. Hopefully, it will not be real serious, but we, at this point, we really don't know. So, there was one other minor incident where a youngster fainted, but the youngster fainted in line to get in the parade right at the corner of the hospital. So carried him over and was treated and released. So no big deal. A lot of heat got to a lot of people yesterday. So any of you who were there know that as well as out there. And then one last thing, and this won't be much of a surprise, but in this year's budget, we did budget for a deputy chief, just as we had in prior years, but the position has gone unfilled since Joey resigned. And so I'm going to yield the balance of my time to Chief Cox to make the introduction.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, City Council, hi again. Just real quick, I've got 5 hours of sleep and I worked 18 hours yesterday, so let's wrap it up.
But you had fun on the.
Oh, I had a lot of fun. On my free motorcycle.
Exhausting.
I would just like to take this opportunity to introduce you guys to Jay Ritchie, who I have hired to be the next deputy chief of the Bisbee Police Department for the city of Bisbee. Jay, as you guys know, used to work for us before. He moved on, stayed with us as a reservist, remained dedicated throughout that, had an opportunity, applied for the position, did very well in the war boards with us. He brings a lot of knowledge and experience. He has a past administrative experience. He has past supervisory experience, extensive, over 20 years with the state of Arizona. And he's well familiar with the city of Bisbee. He's a Bisbee local. He's invested. Graduated from Bisbee High School. The Douglas chief of police has already reminded him of that. So please welcome on board, and he'll be my right-hand man.
I wondered why Jay stayed there the whole time. That was, somebody might get on.
Because I didn't make him stay.
Just in case you didn't know who he was. That's all I have, sir.
That's it? All right. Motion.
All right, I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
In response to